So, you want to open a gym. You've got $1 million in the bank, a passion for fitness, and a vision of a packed weight room where every treadmill is occupied and the energy is electric. It looks like the easiest business in the world when you walk into a successful club on a Tuesday evening. You see the lines at the front desk and the crowded racks, and you think this place must be printing money. You think more people plus more memberships equals more profit. But that vision is actually the 1 hour of the day that lies to you the most. The reality of spending $1 million to open a facility is much more complicated than just renting a space and buying some heavy iron. Before I even unlocked the front door, I had to realize that a gym is not actually a fitness business. It is a subscription business that just happens to have dumbbells in it. Once you understand that fundamental difference, everything about how this $1 million disappears and how it eventually comes back starts to make sense. The first lesson I learned is that your choice of location is the most high-stakes gamble you will ever make, and most first-time owners get it wrong because they think a good location just means a lot of people. The truth is, your entire addressable market is actually trapped within a 10 to 15 minute drive or transit ride of your front door. That's it. That is your entire world. If the income level of the people in that tiny radius doesn't match your pricing, you are dead before you start. You can't put a luxury club charging $150 a month in a neighborhood with a budget income base. No matter how nice your showers are, I found that a high-visibility storefront in a major city can cost you anywhere from $25 to $120 per square foot, and your landlord is going to want 3 to 6 months of that rent up front, just as a security deposit before you've even started a renovation. I decided to follow a different tactic that most I started a gym videos never mention. I looked for someone else's failure. The fastest way to cut your startup costs is to buy a former gym or studio that already has the mirrors, the flooring, and the HVAC systems in place, which can save you tens of thousands of dollars on the build-out. But even with a head start, the build-out phase is where the $1 million really starts to evaporate. You think the expensive part is the equipment, but it's actually turning an empty box of a building into something that can legally hold sweating humans. Rubber flooring that can handle a dropped barbell without cracking the concrete underneath can cost between $10,000 and $40,000. Mirrors alone can run you another $12,000, and locker rooms with proper moisture-resistant materials and drainage can easily eat another $50,000. Then there is the part that almost nobody budgets for correctly: the air. A standard retail space isn't built for 100 people generating heat and moisture simultaneously. Building codes require roughly 20 cubic feet of fresh air per minute for every person exercising. For a 5,000 square foot gym, that means you need an industrial HVAC system upgrade that can cost up to $50,000 before you've sold a single membership. I quickly learned that your floor plan is a financial decision, not a design one. Most of my capital went into build-out and equipment, but I had to be careful because cardio machines look impressive on camera, but often have the worst ROI per square foot. Strength and functional training zones tend to pay back much faster. When it came time to fill that floor with equipment, I faced the classic trap. Do you buy or do you lease? A single commercial-grade treadmill can cost up to $10,000, and you need a dozen of them just for a baseline section. If you buy them outright, you own the asset, but you drain your cash reserves right when you need them most. If you lease them, you keep your cash free, but you're locked into an 8% interest rate and a monthly bill that doesn't care if your gym is empty or full. I realized that equipment isn't a one-time cost. It is a recurring bleed. Heavy daily use wears these machines down in a way home use never would, and broken equipment is the fastest driver of member cancellations. I had to budget between $1,000 and $3,000 every single month just for ongoing repairs and upholstery. It turns out that a graveyard of broken machines in the back room is a very real thing for any owner who doesn't keep up with maintenance. While I was obsessing over the equipment, I almost missed a tiny line item that trips up nearly every first-time owner: the music. Playing music over your speakers legally requires licenses from performing rights organizations, and this can run you several $1,000s per year. Many owners think a personal streaming subscription is enough, but that is a massive legal risk. Licensing organizations send investigators into gyms, and the fines for willful infringement can be as high as $150,000 per song. It's one of those "no one tells you this" beats that can quietly ruin your margins. My monthly operating costs eventually stabilized at around 75% to 85% of my revenue, dominated by rent, payroll, utilities, and maintenance. This means even with $1 million invested and a healthy top-line revenue, the actual profit margins are much thinner than people assume. I had to set aside a 10 to 15% contingency reserve for surprise costs that are actually very predictable, like legal fees that compound as the business evolves or compliance hurdles. Now, let's talk about the actual business model, because this is where the psychology gets interesting. The uncomfortable truth is that most of your members will pay you and never show up. And that is the business model, not a failure of it. Industry data shows that roughly 67% of gym memberships go essentially unused. If everyone who paid for a membership actually showed up at the same time, the fire code would shut the building down in minutes. A gym with 7,000 members might only be built to hold 250 people at once. The business isn't selling fitness. It's selling guilt-financed real estate access. The person who signs up and never comes back is my most valuable customer because they cost me nothing in hot water, towels, or equipment wear. A gym full of daily regulars would actually be a financial nightmare because it would require a much more expensive building and higher utility bills to serve the same number of paying people. This creates a strange incentive structure where you need a constant influx of new members to combat churn. Around 12% of all my annual signups happen in January because of New Year's resolutions, but 80% of those people have quit showing up by the time summer arrives. Experience taught me not to spend that January windfall as if it were permanent revenue. It's a seasonal spike that has to carry you through the slow summer months because membership itself isn't a stable, permanently growing number, with annual churn sitting around 30 to 40%. I had to find a second revenue stream that actually had strong economics. That's where personal training and small group sessions come in. A single trainer working one-on-one has a hard revenue ceiling of about $100,000 a year because they only have so many hours in a day. But by shifting to small group training, where 4 clients each pay a lower rate, but the total hourly take is doubled, I was able to break that ceiling. One dedicated personal training client can be worth dozens of members who barely use their key cards. I also had to decide whether to go independent or buy into a franchise. A franchise gives you the brand name and the proven layout, but it costs you a $20,000 to $60,000 upfront fee and a permanent 5% to 10% slice of your gross revenue every month. I chose to stay independent to keep every dollar of profit, but that meant I had to build every system from scratch, including the cancellation process. There's a reason gyms make it hard to cancel, requiring certified mail or in-person visits. They know that 30% to 40% of cancellations happen just because a credit card expired. If the business survival depended only on happy daily users, we wouldn't need to make leaving so difficult. But the friction is a core part of the operations because the business knows a large share of revenue comes from people who wish they weren't paying. Looking back at my $1 million investment after a full year, I've seen 2 versions of this story. In the optimistic scenario, you hit your break-even count of about 337 members quickly. You keep your churn low, and you build a healthy training program. That can lead to a take-home pay of $70,000 to $180,000 a year. But in the realistic scenario, where a competitor opens nearby or equipment repairs spike, that comfortable margin can slide into an outright loss very quickly. Even when the parking lot looks full, the business can be one bad debt structure away from insolvency, just like the big chains like Bally Total Fitness or 24 Hour Fitness that collapsed under the weight of their own fixed costs. The biggest lesson I've learned is that success in the gym business was never really about how many people you can get to sign up. It's about how well you can survive on the people who stop showing up.